When we begin to understand biblical prophecy, what's about to happen next is going to affect the whole planet Earth. We lost our land, our culture, and our identity. There is a great awakening amongst the scattered tribes, and now we must return to the covenant of our forefathers. The Father chose out of all nations the nation of Israel. Okay, shalom, shalom, Mr. Khan. Welcome again to, actually I have a new congregation, all right? A new congregation, and it's called Awakening Ministries, all right? Hallelujah. Awakening Ministries. Well, once again, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule to join me, your brother, Moray Zakane Kasada Bar, and we're going to be talking again about the book of Daniel, how I believe the book of Daniel is very important. There's so many clues, so many hidden messages that's in the book of Daniel. And if we don't pay very close attention to it, we might miss it. All right, we might miss it. There's a lot of esoteric meanings behind the book of Daniel. And I believe that looking at the book of Daniel in Aramaic and Hebrew is going to be extremely important. I believe that the translators of the book of Daniel didn't do a good job, or they did a fairly decent job. But there are some key words that are detrimental for us to understand what is actually going on, especially when you go to the book of Daniel, the 8th chapter, when we begin to see the word chazon and we begin to see the word more. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. Excuse me. But before we get into today's main topic, okay, before we subway into that, I did a video, excuse me, yesterday on Facebook, and it's dealing with the topic of the Mashiach, all right? We know that a lot of our non-Messianic believers believe that those of us that are following the Mashiach of the first century, we're called idol worshiping or idol worshipers, because for some odd reason they believe that we're putting the Mashiach before the Father. I don't know what any of that means. From a Hebraic perspective, they might have a point from a Christian perspective, but from a Hebrew perspective, in the circle that I deal with, nobody prays to the Mashiach. And this is the reason why yesterday I wanted to make it clear, crystal clear, putting all of your personal issues and differences aside. I went to the book of Matthew, the 6th chapter, the 9th verse. And when the Talmudim asked the Mashiach how to pray, there is nowhere in those writings where the Mashiach told anybody to pray to him. I have not found anywhere in scripture where the Mashiach said that he came in his own authority. He was always giving authority to the Father who sent him. And I don't see any difference in what the Mashiach did versus what Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and the rest of the prophets did. Now, we do say that the Mashiach is that Mashiach or that anointed one that was promised to come in the Old Testament. Now, we do believe that, but we do not pray to the Mashiach. And as far as atonement for sins, it is my argument that looking at Abraham, looking at Noah. Just those two for a minute. Those two individuals here now were operating on a different level, different from the Levitical order. Let's say it that way. They were operating on an order that is different from the Levitical order. Meaning now is that these two individuals now, Abraham and Noah, were operating on faith, emunah, faith. My argument is that the Levitical order is not an order that is working on faith. The order that Abraham and Noah was operating on in their relationship with the Father supersedes the Levitical order, because the Levitical order basically operates on kata'ah, which is sin. I want to make sure that that's clear. Now, I can expound upon that a whole lot more, but I just wanted to give you a premise on where I'm coming from. And once again, we do not pray to the Mashiach Hebraically, and can someone take away your sins? Because this big hoopla, there's a movement of Hebrew Israelites who are messianic, believe that the Mashiach can take away sins, and nobody can take away sins. Now, I understand what you're saying from a Greek Western perspective, but from a Hebraic perspective, the way that I explained it yesterday is that the Mashiach, and I see that some people like to make fun and make jokes, Jesus, JC, and all this other crazy stuff. Listen, it is actually funny. Those of us that are who understand Hebraically, typology, and what is going on in the Old Testament, we sit back and we laugh. We laugh. Been in this walk for 30 years. I would not be entertaining anybody that wants to do any debates and, listen, you know what? I debated Kasadaba, or I debated another Moreh, and look at me. I was able to debunk him, because I was able to prove and bring out more scriptures that the Mashiach never existed. Well, that argument, if you want to look at a winner and a loser, it goes according to the audience. All right. And I'm not here to try to disprove or change anybody's mind. But the scriptures that I will be using to support my argument now are not the ordinary scriptures that people are looking to prove their point, whether or not the Mashiach ever existed. But I just wanted to prove this point here, Mr. Vikar. All right. It is my argument that the Mashiach, got a divine message from the Father. And he died delivering that message. And the Mashiach believed that if an individual that was in darkness, because during the first century, Israel was in darkness. They were in darkness. And what the Mashiach died doing is explaining to that generation, if you was to repent and return to Torah, you would have a better relationship with the Father. It is nowhere documented where the Mashiach said that by returning to Torah, that you would have a better relationship with him personally, alone, separate from the Father. That is not documented anywhere. The Mashiach died believing that he got a divine revelation and that he came from the Father. The same way that Isaiah did it. Isaiah believed that the message that he was receiving was a divine revelation, a divine teaching that he got from the Father, and he died believing that, because he believed, he believed that Israel was in darkness at that time. Jeremiah also did the same thing. Ezekiel also did the same thing. Isaiah, Malachi, Micah, all of these guys, they died believing that Israel was in darkness And if they, meaning Israel, return to the covenant, they would have a better relationship with the Father. And the reason why I'm saying that, the faith of Abraham and Noah supersedes the Levitical order, because there's a Melchizedek order and a Melchizedek order and a Levitical order, and the Melchizedek order supersedes the Levitical order. That's right. It supersedes the Levitical order. And we are now supposed to be operating now under faith in the Mashiach, where we don't need goats, bulls, and lambs to atone for our sins. It's better to obey than to sacrifice. Bereshit, the 15th chapter, is very, very important. And if we don't understand culture, typologies, and once again, understanding Genesis, the 15th chapter properly, we're going to miss the boat. All right? Simply just miss the boat. And again, I can go on a lot more with this, and I probably would do it a little bit later on. But to my non-messianic believers, listen, it's okay. For the second time, it's okay. The third time, it's okay. Whatever gripes that you might have, beefs that you might have with those of us that believe in the Mashiach, all right, fine. Only thing that I can say is that when the smoke clears, we will all see Kasadabah was wrong, or those who don't believe in the Mashiach that came during the first century was the Mashiach. You're right, or either I'm right. Somebody has to be right in all of this. And let's just leave it there. That's pretty much where I'm at now. All right. So I definitely wanted to bring that out before I got to the main lesson here. And once again, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule to join me here this afternoon. The reason for the delay is that I had a real serious cold, like for the last couple of weeks here. So I've been trying to fight that thing off there. All right. It wasn't COVID or anything like that. All right. So I don't do them shot things and all that other stuff. All right. So it wasn't COVID, but I've been having this real nasty cold for the last couple of weeks. But anyway, all right, let's start off like we always do with the Father's Prayer. All right. Let's do that. And we're going to do that in Hebrew. All right. And then we're going to do it in English. Abinu, Shabbat Shamayim, Yit Kudas Shemka, O Yit Barak Malkutka, Retsunka Yahye Ishui, Ba Shamayim, U Ba Aretz, Ut At Ain Lat Minu Tamadit, Umakulanu, Kata Atenu, Ka Asher Anaknu, Mu Kalim, U Al Tabi Anu La Yude, Nasayon, U Shar Ranu, Makal Ra, all esteemed to the Father through his Son, Yahusha HaMashiach. And if that bothers anybody, all right, you can easily now give reference to Isaiah, Jeremiah, all of these guys here, because they all dedicated their lives, okay, in delivering the divine message, is that we all need to return to Torah, all right? That's the point. We're going to now do it in English. Our Father which art in heaven, set apart be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, or may your kingdom be blessed. Your will be done in heaven, on earth, and give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us, Father, of our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all that is evil. For thine is the kingdom, and all esteem belongs to the Father through his Son. And Father, we thank you for sending all of the messengers who taught return to the covenant. All of these guys died believing that Israel was in darkness and we need to return to covenant. All right. So the title of today's class, and excuse me, Mr. Cut this cough here, is entitled Tracing America in Daniel Conclusion. All right. Tracing America in Daniel Conclusion. And the name of the ministry is Awakening Ministries. All right. Awakening Ministries. Okay. Tracing the United States of America in Daniel. All right. Tracing the United States of America in Daniel. Tracing America in Daniel conclusion. First, I want to thank you, my subscribers, for all your support and love. This series entitled Tracing America in Daniel has been a trying, yet informative piece of studying. I've learned so much along the way, and I hope you did too. Question: what happened to the 12 tribes of Israel after 70 AD? That's what I'm interested in. Some people say that today there is no such thing as the 12 tribes of Israel. When 70 AD came to an end, meaning now the destruction of the temple, that also meant the end of the 12 tribes of Israel as a nation, as a people. And we're now basically the Christian church. All right. But guess what? There's over 10,000 different religions on the planet Earth today. 10,000. And every one of those religions say that I'm right. I got it right. I'm right. I'm right. You're wrong. I'm right. I'm right. You're wrong. Also with that, there's over 4,500 different Christian religions. All right. And guess what? They're all doing the same thing. I'm right. I'm right. I'm right. You're wrong. You're wrong. So with my 30 years of experience, I say, listen, you know what? This whole debating and arguing and back and forth. I know more scriptures than you do. Look at me. Look at me. Been there, done that. All right. Been there, done that. I'm more interested in looking at the different levels of understanding Torah and how I can raise my level of consciousness now through understanding what is the spiritual application behind these festivals. All right. Those festivals are very important. Excuse me. So again, what happened to Rome after 70 AD? And finally, is America an extension of Rome? Once again, is America an extension of Rome through her symbol, the eagle? All right. So let's look at Second Esdras. All right. Let's look at Second Esdras in the Apocrypha, because I'm asking you to continue with me on this journey as we continue to turn the page. Can we trace America in Daniel? Okay, so we can look at Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, and I'm looking at symbols. All right. Symbols are all around us. And what is happening now, we need to understand symbols. We need to understand flags. All of this stuff is very important. Meaning now is that I believe in this type of research that I'm doing, you can't leave any stones unturned. Every stone has to be turned so that we can now, at the end of our studies, come up with a concrete foundation on why we're saying what we're saying. And my argument is that America is an extension of Rome. The same way I believe that the Medo-Persian Empire is an extension of the first Babylon. My argument is that the Greeks is an extension of the Medo-Persian Empire, which is also Babylonian. I also believe that Rome is an extension of Greece, or the Greeks, who were Babylon. So we have Babylon, we have Medo-Persia, which was Babylon. We have the Greeks, which is Babylon, and we have the Romans, which is Babylon, and we have America, which is Babylon. All right. So Babylon proper was destroyed, but that energy, that spirit moved through those metals, meaning Babylon, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greeks, the Romans, and America. So let's go to 2nd Ezra, the 11th chapter, and we're going to read verses 36 to 46. 36 to 46. Then I, Ezra, heard a voice which said unto me, Look before thee, and consider the thing which thou seest. And I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion, chased out of the wood. And I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle, and said, Hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, Are not you or thou it that remainest of the 4 beasts? Okay, talking about this eagle here now. And we know that Rome represents the eagle. But when we begin to look at now, there are certain coats of arms now that have a double-headed eagle. I've talked about these things now over like the last year. So just follow my Daniel series and you will be able to pick it up. But for now, we have to move on. Verse 37 again, and I, Ezra, beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion, who I believe through typology now to be the Mashiach. Kasadaba, why can't it be the Father? Okay, then it's the Father. The reason why I'm saying it's the Mashiach, because the Mashiach and the Father are one. Isaiah and the Mashiach and the Father are one. And these are 3 individuals. Jeremiah, Isaiah, the Mashiach, and the Father, 4 individuals, but they're all one. They are akkad. As long as these prophets, these anointed ones, are saying the same thing, they are all one, not taking anything away from the Father. Real simple. You don't need a bachelor's or a master's degree to figure that out. Real simple. And behold, and lo, as it were a roaring lion chased out of the wood, and I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle, and said, Hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, Are not you it that remainest of the 4 beasts, whom I made to reign in my world? My world. Okay, that is very important. This disagreeable spirit, this eagle, is ruling today in the Father's world, my world, that the end of their times might come through them, through this eagle now. And the 4th came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world, which is the Father's world, with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth, with much wicked oppression, and so long time deceit dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. Now verse 40 speaks volume, so I'm going to read it again. And the 4th came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness. Not just Jerusalem. This is talking about something different. This eagle here now is committing atrocities now over the whole world. Not the world Israel, but the whole planet Earth. And we're going to show that this is talking about not just Jerusalem. This eagle now has extended his or her rulership over the whole world. Watch this now. And the 4th beast came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth. Not just Jerusalem, over the whole compass of the earth, with much, which is a verb, much wicked oppression, and so long time dwelt he upon the whole, upon the earth with deceit. And the earth hast thou not judged with truth. So this eagle must have been in a position now at some point to judge with truth, and it did not rule with truth. It is my argument that the United States, corporate America, rules the whole world. She is the main superpower on the earth, and she did not rule in righteousness. For the earth hast thou not judged with truth, for thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, thou hast loved liars, and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and have cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. That is not talking about Jerusalem here. This eagle here is talking about America, but before it was America, it started with Rome. Once again, Babylon, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greeks, the Romans, and then we have an extension of Rome through the eagle, which is America. Verse 43, therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up unto the highest, and your pride into the mighty. The highest also have looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And therefore appear no more, thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body, that all the earth may be refreshed. The earth has to be refreshed. Was the planet Earth refreshed after 70 AD? Absolutely not. Things intensified on the planet Earth after 70 AD. 70 AD was a new beginning, I believe that. But there was no refreshing on the planet Earth, meaning now is that wickedness got worse and worse and worse. And according to what I'm reading here, it must come to a climax because this earth belongs to the Father. That all the earth may be refreshed and may return, being delivered from your violence, eagle, and that she may hope for the judgment and mercy of him that made her. Let's continue to read on. 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter. 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter. I'm going to read verses 7 through 12. And I said, Sovereign, thou bearest rule. If I have found grace before thy sight, and if I am justified with thee before many others, and if my prayer indeed be come up before thy face, comfort me then, and show me thy servant the interpretation and the plain difference of this fearful vision, that thou mayest perfectly comfort my soul. For thou hast judged me worthy to show me the last times, the last days. All right. And he said unto me, this is the interpretation of the vision. The eagle whom thou sawest came up from the sea. That's going to be very important. From the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel, but it was not expounded unto him. Therefore now I declare it unto you. Now, it is your homework assignment, Mishpachah, to read the rest of 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter. All right. I've done it many times before, but it is very important for us to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Our responsibility. All right. So let's move on. Now, the case of the papacy. Everybody knows that I have been talking about the papacy, the papacy, the papacy, the papacy. All right. The Roman Catholic Church, with its beginnings in 538 AD, ending in 1798 AD. How did I come to an end of the papacy? Not the Roman Catholic Church as a religion, but the papacy. How did I come up with 1798? I simply added the beginning marker, the beginning stage of the papacy beginning around 538 AD, adding 1,260 years to that, you get 1798. Now, was the papacy around during the first century? Obviously not, because I said that the papacy began in 538 AD, not during the first century. Was Rome in play during the first century? Absolutely. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we don't get dates mixed up here. Now, having now seen that the 1,260 years of the papal supremacy began in 538 AD, it is an easy matter to find their close. Adding the 1,260 years to 538 brings us to the year 1798. I believe that 1798 is very important because as we begin to further expound upon the eagle, we need to then understand what happened around this time of 1798. All right. And it should be no great mystery. Everybody should understand or overstand now. This is around the time where America pops up. All right. Real easy. This is the reason why I am so adamant. I cannot stop my research. I cannot stop my line of thinking with all of this now at 70 AD. There has to be more to the puzzle. All right. And my sister Sharon, hallelujah, she is always there. I want to thank you, sister, for your time and your participation all the time. All right. Because you are a great supporter and great inspiration to me continuing here with this ministry here. All right. So now, and if we have given the right application to this prophecy, history must record an event in 1798 that would appear like a death stroke to the papacy. Turning to history, we find just such an event recorded. Watch this now. The official Swedish newspaper, I like to give sources so nobody can say, Kassad, you're making this up. Kassad, you're making this up. No, I am not making it up. I'm trying to give names and dates to every single thing that I say as supporting evidence. So the official Swedish newspaper, Stockholm's Post-Tidning for March the 29th, 1798 has the following news item. Rome, the 21st of February, 1798, Pope Pius VI was occupied or has occupied the papal chair for all of 28 years. But the 15th, his government in the papal states was abolished. And 5 days later, Pope Pius VI now was guarded by 100 French soldiers. He was taken away from his palace and his capital. All right. These are my sources here. This is how I'm proving what I'm saying. I'm saying that the Antichrist was already in operation during the first century, and that the Antichrist did not stop operating in 70 AD. It is still active to this very day. His property was sold by the French, and among it were 700 heads of cattle, 150 horses, and 800 cords of wood. Poor Pius. He must have felt very sad as he left Rome to go into captivity. When he departed, his tear-filled eyes were turned towards heavenward, and this is by Reverend E.B. Elliott, A.M., says of this event. In the years 1796 to 1797, French dominion being established by Bonaparte's victories in northern Italy, and I talked about this over and over and over and over again. The French armies urged their march onward to the capital Rome, and they're coming to get Pope Pius VI, all right? The aged Pope himself now left mere nominal master of some few remaining shreds of patrimony of Peter, experienced soon after in person the bitterness of prevailing anti-papal spirit. On pretense of an insult, the French ambassador there, a French corps d'armée under Berthier, having in February 1798 crossed the Apennines from Ancona and entered Rome, the tricolored flag was displayed from the Capitol. Amidst the shouts of the populace, the Pope's temporal reign declared at an end, which is 1798. Let me just see something here. 1798. And the Roman Republic proclaimed a strict alliance, fraternization with the French. Then in the Sistine Chapel of the Vatican, the anti-hall, to which has a fresco painting by papal order commemorative of the Protestant massacre on St. Bartholomew's Day, and it has in parentheses, might not the scene have served as a memo of God's retributive justice. There, while sitting on his throne and receiving the gratulations of his cardinals on the anniversary of his election to the popedom, he was arrested by the French military. Watch this now. The ring of his marriage with the Church Catholic was torn from his finger. His palace was raffled, and himself carried prisoner into France, only to die there in exile shortly after. And these are my sources: Horo, Apocalypse, Reverend E.B. Elliott, A.M., Volume 3, page 400 to 401, London in 1862. I just want to make sure that everything, again, that I'm saying can be substantiated now in history. What I'm doing from this point going forth with my ministry here in Awakening Ministries is that I want to give as much data as possible, information showing why I'm taking the position that I'm taking. All right. And this is what I'm going to be doing from this point going forward. Arthur R. Pennington, MAFR, History Society, says of this event: one day the Pope was sitting on his throne in a chapel of the Vatican, surrounded by his cardinals, who had assembled for the purpose of offering him their congratulations on his elevation to his high dignity. On a sudden, the shouts of an angry multitude penetrated to the conclave, intermingled with the stroke of axes and hammers on the doors. Very soon a band of soldiers burst into the hall, who tore away from his finger the pontifical ring and hurried him off a prisoner through the hall, the walls of which was adorned with a fresco representing the armies or the armed satellites of the papacy. On St. Bartholomew's Day, as bathing their swords in the blood of offending women and helpless children. Thus it might seem as if he were to be reminded that the same God who visits the iniquities of the fathers upon the children upon the third or into the third and fourth generation had made him the victim of his retributive justice for a deed of atrocity which had been a crying aloud for him for vengeance. Epics of the Papacy, pages 449, 450, London, 1881. I must, and I just want to bring facts to my argument. Reverend Joseph Rickaby, an English Jesuit, writes, when in 1797 Pope Pius the Sixth fell grievously ill, Napoleon gave orders, to Bontiferis, these names here, gave orders that in the event of his death, no successor should be elected to his office. Wow. And that the papacy should be discontinued. But the Pope recovered. The peace was soon broken. Berthier entered Rome on the 10th of February, 1798, and proclaimed a republic. Rome was proclaimed a republic. The aged pontiff refused to violate his oath by recognizing it and was hurried or hurtled from prison to prison in France. No wonder that half Europe thought Napoleon's veto would be obeyed and that the papacy was dead. The Modern Papacy, page 1, London Catholic Truth Society. Reverend George Trevor, Canon of York, writes of this eventful year. This 1798 Mishpachah, it is so important. And I know a lot of times, a lot of us might not like to take time to read. I like to take my time to read so that I can make sure that the evidence that I'm presenting to my audience is as accurate as possible. So let's see what Reverend George Trevor has to say of this eventful year, 1798. The object of the French director was the destruction of the pontifical government as the irreconcilable enemy of the Republic. The aged Pope was summoned to surrender the temporal government. On his refusal, he was dragged from the altar. His rings were torn from his fingers. And finally, after declaring the temporal power abolished, the victors carried the Pope prisoner into Tuscany, which he never returned. So there were a lot of historians, a lot of books that are out there that are sharing with us what happened in 1798 with the papacy and how this all ties in with America. All right, I'm going to show that. Excuse me. The Papal States converted into the Roman Republic were declared to be in perpetual alliance with France. But the French general was the real master of Rome. The territorial possessions of the clergy and monks were declared national property and their former owners cast into prison. The papacy was extinct. Excuse me. Not a vestige of this existence remained. And among all the Roman Catholic powers, not a finger was stirred in its defense. It got to a point because of all of the atrocities that the papacy had done, it had came to an end. Because one of the biggest supporters of the papacy during that time was the French. And this is the reason why I keep sharing with people now is that there was a time where the papacy now had a military backing. All right. So it fell from the papacy now to the Roman Catholic Church, and papacy or papal just means father. But the difference here now is that the papacy had an army now to actually help implement by force, by the sword, those who disagreed with the interpretation and a lot of the changes that the papacy had done to the Bible. All right. So I am aware of some things that look shady, okay, in the Besorah. All right. So I'm reading and I'm taking my time very carefully here now with interpretation or translations of these texts, because the Roman Catholics or the papacy or the papal popes now, they spoke Latin. All right. They spoke Latin. And there was an Eastern and Western Rome. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right. Let me just keep on with this here. Now, the Papal States converted into the Roman Republic, which declared to be a perpetual alliance with France, but the French general was the real master of Rome. The territorial possessions of the clergy and monks were declared national property, like I said earlier, and their former owners cast into prison. The papacy was extinct. Not a vestige of its existence remained, and among all the Roman Catholic powers, not a finger was stirred in its defense. The Eternal City had no longer prince or pontiff. Its bishop was a dying captive in foreign lands, and the decree was already announced that no successor would be allowed in its place. The end of the papacy. This is now in the book called Rome, from the Fall of the Western Empire, pages 439 to 440, London, 1868. An English secular writer, John Adolphus, says of 1798. Everybody's talking about the 1798. The downfall of the papal government, by whatever means affected, excited perhaps less empathy than that of any other in Europe. The errors, the oppression, the tyranny of Rome over the whole Christian world were remembered with bitterness. Many rejoiced through religious and apathy in the overthrow of a church which they considered as idolatrous, through attended with the immediate triumph of infidelity. And many saw in these events the accomplishments of prophecy and the exhibition of signs promised in the most mystical parts of the Holy Scriptures. This is the History of France from 1790 to 1802, volume 2, page 379, London, 1803. Bear with me here a little bit, Mr. McCall. This cold is still bothering me here a little bit. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Mr. McCall, breaking news. Breaking news. John saw another beast. All right. John saw another beast. And the reason why I'm saying that John saw another beast, remember in 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter, verse 11, I read, the eagle whom thou sawest, came up from the sea, is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. This beast that came out of the sea is what we're interested in. Breaking news, John saw another beast. Whatever you want to call this statue, Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty, I am very interested in understanding now those 7 spikes. Okay, those 7 spikes that are around the Statue of Liberty, Lady Liberty. Let's talk about it. Let's take a very close look at Revelation, the 13th chapter, verses 1 through 11. Sorry about the typo, the mix up there. All right, the King James Version, we have the CSB version. And I saw a beast come out of the sea. Out of the sea, it had 10 horns and 7 heads. On his heads were 10 crowns, and on his heads were blasphemous names. And the beast I saw was like a leopard. So, like I said now, this beast here now was like a leopard. Its feet was like a bear. The leopard now represents who? The Greeks. Its feet was like a bear. The bear represents who? The Medo-Persian Empire. And in its mouth was like a lion's mouth. Okay. The dragon gave the beast its power, its throne, and great authority. Now, this is where Rome and the papacy now come together. Rome and the papacy. At the beginning stages of this, who gave the papacy its power? My argument is that Rome gave the papacy its religious power. Religious power. Rome is a political corporation. This is how they were operating. Watch this. When the Romans came and destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD, that wasn't because of religion. Wasn't because of religion. The Romans at that time, during the first century, they were serving many gods. This thing was about a corporation. This was about money and politics. So when Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD, there were rebellions or uprisings, revolutions that was going on that was compromising Rome's authority in Jerusalem. The reason why Vespasian and Titus came and overthrew Jerusalem in 70 AD, it had nothing to do with religion. It had to do with the uprisings and the revolutions that was happening there. All right. So we're looking for this Mashiach to come now and destroy both a religious and a political system that is now thriving well here today in 2024. But let's read on. One of his heads appeared to be fatally wounded, but its fatal wound was healed. The whole earth now, let me read on where I'm at. The whole earth was amazed and followed the beast. They worshiped the dragon because he gave authority to the beast. So who was this dragon? My argument is that this dragon is Rome, who gave authority to the beast, which is who? A religious system now, beginning with Constantine now, where we now begin to have this thing that happened, I think it was like in 380 AD now, where Christianity now became like the official religion. And like I said earlier now, today there's over 4,500 different divisions of Christianity. But who gave now during the early 3rd century, who gave this religious system this type of authority? My argument is that it was Rome who gave the papal system its authority, and it was Constantine that made Christianity now the religion of choice. No, actually by decree. Christianity now had become the official religion in Rome, operating under the papacy because it was the beginning stages of the popes, because the papacy again didn't really become official until 538 AD. The scripture is going to speak for itself, so let's move on. They worshiped the dragon because he gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, who was like the beast and who was able to wage war against it. The beast was given a mouth to utter boasts and blasphemies, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months, which is 1,260 years. Hold on 1 second, make sure I keep up, because there's something that I wanted to bring to the Mishpachah's attention. Okay. And it was permitted to wage war against the saints and to conquer them. It was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All those who live on earth shall worship it or him. The it here is talking about a religious system. Everyone whose name was not written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slaughtered. If anyone has ears to hear, let him listen. And if anyone is to be taken into captivity he goes. If anyone is to be killed with the sword he will be killed. This calls for endurance and faithfulness from the saints. In verse 11 it says, and I saw another beast come out of the earth. Okay. And it had two horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. Now, so one beast now is coming out of the sea, and another beast now is coming out of the earth. My argument is that John, the Revelator, who was on the island of Patmos, saw a beast come out of the sea, and there's another one now, another beast that is coming out of the earth. Who is this beast now that is coming out of the earth that had two horns like a lamb? It's a beast now, but it has two horns like a lamb, meaning now is that it would double talk, or it would have two natures. And we need to understand what this is, but it spoke like a dragon. A lamb is symbolic of a peaceable animal, all right? It doesn't put up a fight or anything like that. It's a very cooperative animal, but it spoke like a dragon. It is my argument is that when America came into play, it spoke like a lamb. It had two horns. It had authority. Horns represents authority. It was a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It is my argument is that America started off as a Christian nation, but it changed. Okay, the more it grew in power, and it began to speak like a dragon. That's what happened. But now let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. Now, the 1798 Mishpachah is very important. It is very important. The first painting that Trumbull completed for the rotunda shows the presentation of the Declaration of Independence, which is now called Independence Hall, Philadelphia. The painting features the committee that drafted the Declaration of Independence, John Adams, Robert R. Livingston, Roger Sherman, Thomas Jefferson, presenting the document. So if you look at this $2 bill, I used to save these things in the $2 bills. See the man that is sitting in the chair? I don't know who's who in this painting here, but it makes mention of the most important individuals here who are at the desk. When you look at this $2 bill, and we see Congress or legislation at this time witnessing here now the signing in of this document here. The painting includes portraits of 42 of the 56 signers, okay? And 5 other patriarchs. The artist sketched the individuals and the Rome from life. Look closely to see that Thomas Jefferson appears to be standing on John Adams' foot. All right. Can you see that? I can't even blow it up. But from my end, you can see now John Adams. He's standing on John Adams' foot. While this is probably due to the painting being retouched, okay, I have it also here on the far top right, and it's encircled here where he seems to be standing on his foot. What Messianic symbol or sign that might be, I don't know. Maybe some of you that are listening will be able to share what that means. Okay, let's look here. Dawood ben Israel, shalom, shalom to you. The synthesizer, Grouch, Daniel 8:23-25, sure sounds like Trump. And we're the one that gave his power. Hallelujah. But these pictures and these symbols I find very interesting. This depiction can also be found in the back of the US $2 bill with Jefferson's foot moved. All right. We almost done. Celebrating the end of the American Revolution, 9/3/1781. All right. We have George Washington as he comes into the city, raising the flag, ending here now the American Revolution. And this is all centered around now when you add 1,260 to 538, you get 1798. And this is where America now wins her independence from the British, and where now America now begins to take the scene, and America's symbol is the eagle. I believe everybody can agree to that. I don't believe that that would be an issue. The Constitution of the United States, the original document, September the 17th, 1787, includes all 27 amendments. And we have this painting here. Now, these are live paintings here. Now, we have George Washington standing up by America's founding fathers, are read by Howard Lester. All right. So understanding America's history is going to be very important, extremely important. OK, and even the flag that we see today hanging in the courtrooms, that was not the original flag that was instituted, because I think somebody said it was like Betsy Ross. She was the one that actually made the flag. But the flag that we see now was not, that design was not the original design from the beginning. Now, ratification of the Constitution. Today marks the day the U.S. Constitution was ratified. June the 21st, 1786, New Hampshire became the 9th of 13 states to ratify the unique document that established one government over the sovereign colonies of the United States or the American continent. Let me not say the United States, of the American continent. Written in 115 days by the representatives from 13 American colonies in 1787, it took less than a year to meet the criteria in Article 7 that established the U.S. Constitution as the rule of state. After ratification in June, Congress set dates for the first federal elections to occur from Monday, December the 15th, 1788 to Saturday, January the 10th, 1789. The new government was to convene on March the 4th, 1789. Understanding America's history, Mishpachah, is going to be very important, because I am a sole believer, once again, that we can find America's roots with Congress, legislation, all of this stuff here now is rooted in the Greeks and the Roman Empire. This is the reason why we say the Greco-Roman Empire. And once again, America is an extension of the Roman Empire. Let's see here. I also want to bring to everybody's attention here too now that 1783, September the 3rd, 1783 was also very important. The Treaty of Paris was also signed 2 years later on September the 3rd, 1783 by representatives of King George III, including David Hartley and Richard Oswald, and the United States, including Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and John Jay, officially ended the conflict. And this is now celebrating the revolution. I know that this is not our history, all right? But I wanted to share, though, is that in order for us to know where things are going today, we might need to backtrack a little bit, okay, to see how this whole thing here got established. And my argument is that America did not come into existence out of a vacuum. It is an extension of Rome. An extension of Rome. And this is the reason why when we begin to look at did Rome fall, my argument is that Rome went through a transition because of invading tribes. Those invading tribes, okay, are part of the government that now exists today. They have a history. And the nation of Israel is centered around all of that. So don't let anybody tell you that the nation of Israel does not exist today. We might not know who we are tribal, but if we had to go now with the preponderance of the evidence, it is still my argument that those that came over here during the transatlantic slave trade are Israelites. Now, were they people of color? Okay, I'm going to use my words kind of carefully here. Already here in America? Absolutely. Already here in America. My research has brought me to the understanding that there were people of color here before the transatlantic slave trade, not tens of years, not hundreds of years, but thousands of years before the transatlantic slave trade. There were people of color living here. So let's speed it up here a little bit, Mr. Picard. The story goes that George Washington himself, along with the signers of the Declaration of Independence, Robert Morris and George Ross, a relative of Betsy, went to Betsy Ross's home in Philadelphia in June 1776 to discuss the need for a flag. Flags are very important. When Israel, we was a nation now, every single tribe was represented by a flag. And my argument is now, when you go down to the United Nations, all right, we aren't a people to be recognized because we don't have a flag. These are some of the things that we need to have now to show that we have a voice. Someone is now speaking on our behalf. And we do know that my argument is that, you know what, I don't believe that would ever happen. But I'm just trying to show a little history here now, is that America and other countries now recognize other nations now by their flags. And there was a time when Israel was represented now, or each tribe now was represented by their flags. Now, to discuss the need of a flag for the soon to be declared independent United States, Ross looked at their design and suggested a change from a 6-pointed star and to a 5-pointed star. All right? That is interesting. From a 6-pointed star to a 5-pointed star, because it would be easier to sew and accept the job of making the first flag. End of story. Question mark, not so much. Now, there's a video, Mr. Picard, that I want you guys to see. All right. And it's only 6 minutes long, and we will end the show there. And I pray that I was able to share with you some good information here. All right. So let's look at this video right quick. It's only 6 minutes long.
every human creature to be subject to the Roman pontiff. Pope Clement VI said, "No man outside obedience to the Pope of Rome can ultimately be saved. All who have raised themselves against the faith of the Roman Church and died in final impenitence have been damned and gone down to hell." Even in modern times, Pope John XXIII in 1958 declared, "Into this fold of Jesus Christ no man may enter unless he be led by the sovereign pontiff, and only if they be united to him can men be saved." In 1984, Pope John Paul II was quoted as saying, "Don't go to God for forgiveness of sins, come to me." The quote was based on a Los Angeles Times article which reported, rebutting a belief widely shared by Protestants and a growing number of Roman Catholics, Pope John Paul II dismissed the widespread idea that one can obtain forgiveness directly from God. Furthermore, according to traditional Catholicism, obedience to the papacy is said to be required, no matter how dreadful the Pope might be. Catherine of Siena, one of the patron saints of Italy, whose mummified head is still preserved in Rome today, said, "Even if the Pope were Satan incarnate, we ought not to raise up our heads against him, but calmly lie down to rest in his bosom. He who rebels against our Father is condemned to death. For that which we do to him, we do to Christ. We honor Christ if we honor the Pope." Such demands for blind obedience were confirmed by the popes themselves, but confronted by the reformers. By men like Martin Luther, who said, "The Pope, possessed by demons, defends his tyranny with the canon Si Papa, or Yes Father. This canon states clearly, if the Pope should lead the whole world into the control of hell, he is nevertheless not to be contradicted. It's a terrible thing that on account of the authority of this man, we must lose our souls, which Christ redeemed with his precious blood." Because of this evidence, Luther declared, "I believe the Pope is the masked and incarnate devil, because he is the Antichrist." It is important to understand that this belief was not just confined to Luther, but was held by all the reformers from John Wycliffe in the 14th century to Charles Spurgeon in the late 19th century. Spurgeon said, "It is the bounden duty of every Christian to pray against Antichrist. And as to what Antichrist is, no sane man ought to raise a question. If it be not the popery in the Church of Rome, there is nothing in the world that can be called by that name." The Westminster Confession of Faith, along with the Savoy Confession, the Old Baptist Confession, and the Methodist views of John Wesley, all included the declaration that the Pope is that Antichrist, that man of sin and son of perdition, that exalteth himself in the church. This was also the belief of the men who translated the King James Bible. In their opening dedication, they commended the king for writing in defense of the truth, which hath given such a blow unto that man of sin as will not be healed. The view of the Antichrist, not as a single man, but of many men in a single office, was based in part on the teaching of John Wycliffe. In the Gospel of Matthew, the disciples asked Jesus, "What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" Jesus said to them, "Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Wycliffe believed that the many who say, I am Christ, are in fact the popes. The pope's title, Vicarius Christi, literally means another Christ. Wycliffe concluded that Antichrist is thus a monstrous composite. In further explaining the pope's title, author Dave Hunt writes, the Latin equivalent of the Greek anti is vicarius, from which comes vicar. Thus, vicar of Christ literally means Antichrist. But the view of the papacy as Antichrist is not widely held by Protestants today. Still, there are those who continue to uphold the
Okay, Mishpachah, that is actually the video that I wanted everybody to take a look at. I believe that there was some very important information for us to get from that, trying to show what is actually going on with this side of the Roman Catholic Church, which started off as the papacy. What I would do next week, or the following week, Mishpachah, I wanted to show some more information where there were presidents, modern day presidents that we know of now, that had actually made contracts in leagues with the Pope, all right, that made deals with the Pope. So I pray that, Mr. McCullough, that you guys were able to get some understanding with that. What is happening with the papacy, the Roman Catholic Church. I would strongly suggest those of you that are interested on how deep this rabbit hole might go, is to take a look at the video called A Lamp in the Dark, the Untold History of the Bible. I had to watch it a couple of times because there was so much information in that in this presentation here that it was I could not just put everything in there. I believe that I covered enough information to put everybody at least on the right track. And I pray that everybody stay diligent in Torah. May the Father continue to bless you, to keep you in all the ways of Torah. Until the next time, Mishpachah, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom to those of you that observe Shabbat today. May the Father continue to bless you, keep you safe and sound, and welcome once again to Awakening Ministries. All right, Shalom.